Hello, everyone. Welcome to Introduction to Leadership. My name is Diego Aguilar, and my pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the current Cynthia Johnson Fellow at Cal State Long Beach, and I'm pursuing a master's in counseling with an option in student development and higher education. So, a little bit about myself. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps, where I was able to effectively learn and develop some leadership traits that I think could be beneficial to all of you. So, I want to go ahead and share that. Let's go ahead and get started with this workshop. So, let's look at some workshop goals. The first one is leadership traits. To identify and learn new leadership traits, which will be covered throughout this PowerPoint. Following that, establish a foundation regarding leadership. So this workshop is going to help you establish a good foundation, a good understanding of how leadership works and steps to build upon. And lastly is to be effective to be able to effectively lead at the medium to small group. So let's go ahead and get started. So I want to give you some advice whenever you move into a new role or a new environment with new personnel. First off, you want to introduce yourself. You want to establish yourself in this new role. It's important to get to know everyone, not just the people that you might think are important to get to know. You want to know everybody as a whole to get a better understanding of who works with you, who can support you, and who you're supporting as well. So, following that, you always want to observe the current standard operating procedures at a new environment. You don't want to necessarily just come in and start changing things. If you're able to sit back for a while, observe how things are going, how everything works together, that's always a benefit because you're able to see how everybody works, what kind of work ethic they have, like how they like to work, things like that. You're getting to know the team versus just coming in and making everybody work the way you want to work. So once you're done with the observation phase, then you could come in and implement any changes that you think will be beneficial to the overall work environment in order to make it more productive and a better environment to work in. Lastly, when you go to a new role, you want to learn the new structure. As I mentioned earlier, you want to know who you're going to be supporting and who is supporting you as well, who you're going to go to, things of that nature. You want to know where you fall into this new environment and this new team in order to better lead and also better lead your team and help them develop. So we're going to be looking at the 11 Marine Corps leadership principles. We are going to be looking at a variation in order to make them more adaptable to a to the day-to-day leadership. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one is going to be know yourself and seek self-improvement. So as a leader, you should definitely be reflecting upon yourself of why you're a leader to start off and what type of leader you are. You always want to be very reflective and very have a good understanding of who you are as a leader. Following that, you also have to know what you could improve on, constantly analyze yourself and how you lead and what you want to get better at. And not only identifying that, but actually going out there and betting yourself. For example, you guys are taking a workshop. That's something that you could be doing as a leader as you grow throughout the years, constantly redeveloping, refining your skills. The second one is be technically and tactically proficient. So this one over encompasses a lot of the knowledge aspects of being a leader. You have to know a wider range of knowledge in order to effectively lead a team, as far as what your job is and how it relates to others. So before you lead, you definitely have to be able to follow. You have to go through the lower levels and learn the job and be able to understand what those jobs are in order to be a proficient leader. Following that is know your team and look out for their welfare. This one is definitely important. as it as is moving the emphasis from yourself onto the team. So you have to know your team, definitely check in on them on a personal level, but what we want to cover is their role and operations and technological use within the work environment. What does your team do exactly? What does each position do? And looking out for their welfare. As a leader, you are the face of the team or the section or department. So it is your job to not only lead and develop them, but also look out for their welfare in a sense, in a professional sense, as far as making sure they're developing in the correct way in order to move on to the next phase in their career as well. So moving on from that, keep your team informed. So oftentimes a lot of information is passed on from here to there. And sometimes as a leader, things move at a rapid pace. Take the time to keep your team informed in order for them to be able to make decisions within their job to better support you. The more they know about the overall theme, the more they're able to grasp why things are being done the way they are, and the better they're able to make decisions and work within their realm to better support you. So this one's definitely important as leadership tends to pull you in different directions. Check in with your team, have team meetings, and keep them informed in order to create a better work environment. Let's go ahead and move forward to the next leadership traits. Set the example. Setting the example is extremely important when you become a leader. As I mentioned, you are the face of the team. So, what does that mean? How does that manifest within the work environment? You have to exemplify the characteristics and actions you want from your team members. You definitely do not, you want to avoid being hypocritical. You want to let them know what the expectations are and then exemplify them. Set your set your standards higher than what you expect from your team in order to be able to set the good example within the work environment. So following that, you want to ensure that the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. So there's three phases to that. First off, you want to know that you want your team members to know what the task is and they understand how it's done. You, if possible, somebody to supervise it. If not, you yourself could oversee the project. And lastly, you always want to know when things are accomplished. If when delegating out work, you always want that check in once things are done. That not only keeps you informed that the task is done, it also creates like a full circle within the task. Things were explained, they were understood, they were accomplished, and then a check-in goes back to you. This one's important because if things take longer than what you anticipate them to take, oftentimes the task was not understood. So that's why it's taking longer. So you always want to emphasize the supervised portion of it and go back in if things are taking a little bit too long. Check back in with the team, make sure everything's good. And if anything needs to be reiterated or re explained, definitely do so through that portion. Following that, you definitely want to train your team as a unit. So, by training your team as a unit, professional development can occur. A better understanding of what is expected occurs, as well as the employees learn their own role and how they impact the team. So oftentimes things are everybody works in like an isolated portion of it. You definitely want to be explicit, bring the team together in certain situations and have them work and learn together in order for everybody to know that we are a team, we're working together, and you're able to effectively lead them. So make sound and timely decisions is the next one. This one comes with experience, it comes with knowledge, it comes with the over encompass of being a leader. But you could develop this skill in order to become a better leader within work. So the way you want to develop this is by one, having the knowledge, not only within how to do the job, but as I mentioned, having the knowledge of how long things take and how long you think things take within meetings. So you're going to be making sound and timely decisions. Sometimes as a leader, you have to go to certain meetings and give timelines, not only to your team, but also to your supervisors as well in order to accomplish things. And this is definitely a leadership trait you want to keep in mind when developing all the others. So let's go ahead and move on. So develop a sense of responsibility among your team. It is always important to go to work and accomplish tasks, get things done in a timely manner. But in order to effectively become a leader, to become a better leader yourself, you want to develop a sense of responsibility within your team. You want them to have some pride and willingness to better themselves, set accountability within the team as far as that any team member themselves to have a sense of responsibility when they come to work. And as a leader yourself, you're explicit with them, letting them know what you expect from them in order to not only get the job done, but ultimately to develop them as well. So, moving on from that, you want to employ your team in accordance with its capability. So, so you definitely want to be aware of what type of capabilities your team has and what type of tasks they could accomplish. Oftentimes, I've seen many leaders sign their team up for a certain task that might be outside of their capabilities, whether it's experience wise or technological wise. You definitely want to be aware of what your team could do, and it's your job as a leader to not only speak for them but also to protect your team from strenuous situations when things are too outside of their capabilities. It could put unnecessary stress and not only stress, break cohesiveness and camaraderie within the team. So you want to be aware when tasks are being delegated to within certain teams. You want to know like what your team could handle and be able to push them to the extent where they're able to be pushed, not to the extent where the team itself could break. So that's something as a leader you want to be aware of. So following that one is seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions. You definitely want to look at this one as two portions of it. So the first one is seek responsibility. So you yourself might be the leader of a certain team, but you want to seek responsibility yourself from whoever your supervisor is. Be able to understand their role and try to seek responsibility, taking on new, whether it's a new project, a new task, understanding what your supervisor does and be able to support them as well. And you also want to take responsibility for your actions. Definitely be aware of any mistakes or any things that you need to develop within yourself and be able to hold yourself accountable for any errors that you might make. And not only hold yourself accountable, but understand what what responsibilities you need and better develop those as well. Following that, all too often when it comes to developing yourself in a professional setting, I always hear, well, who do you know to better set yourself up? And I open up this slide here where it says it's not who you know, it's what you know. So that's definitely important. So I want to say that again. It's not who you know, is what you know and who knows you. So I have the slide up right here where it says let your work speak for yourself. So let your work speak for you. Whenever you do any type of project or collaboration or just on a day to day, You want your work to be your own timestamp. People are going to get to know your work, and in a sense are going to get to know you. So that is definitely great to network and understand, connect with other departments. But if you really want to put yourself out there and have like a cemented support, you want to let your work speak for you. So whenever people see certain things that you might have done, um, that's where the curiosity could come in, as well as being able to network through that route. So I want to go over some closing ideas. Leadership is definitely something that takes time to develop, and it is within all of us. So just something to think about is, for starters, is growth. Growth is always something that is going to come within leadership. You got to continue to grow. You can't just stay stagnant once you hit a certain position. You have to constantly look for the next level for yourself in order to understand that the better leader that you become, the more effectively you're able to develop future leaders. That's a good way of thinking about it. Following that is knowledge. Knowledge is power, as we all have heard, but not only power, it helps you understand and better effectively work within your environment. So definitely always try to have a better understanding, expand your understanding outside of your purview into other departments, and better learn how things work at a macro level once you have mastered and understood your day-to-day operations. And lastly, empathy is very important. As a leader, you're not just going to have the same personality for every team member. Everybody's different, and you have to understand that people come from different walks of life, and it's important to take that into consideration when implementing your own leadership style. You have to understand who's a part of your team, what kind of personalities they have, and what resonates with them more. How can you make them more confident as a team member, but also developing them into future leaders as well. So I want to take a quick minute, 30 seconds, to think about and reflect on these questions in order to apply them into your personal life. So the first one is, what are the most important values you want to demonstrate as a leader? The second one is, in what aspect of your personal or professional career can you apply these principles? So, like I said, I want to give you quick 30 seconds. Just take out a sticky note or a piece of paper and jot down your answers. And I want you to hold on to these and think about them as you think about developing yourself as a leader. All right. So, this is something that you could continue to think about. If the 30-second wasn't enough time, just continue to ponder on, think about the leadership traits and how you could either demonstrate them as a leader or how you could apply them to your personal or professional career. So I want to thank you all for coming to this leadership workshop. As I mentioned, it is an introduction to leadership in order to establish a foundation. And I also want to mention that while some of you may not be in leadership positions, might be part of the team members, this is something that you could still apply within your day to day in order to give you a different perspective of viewing your day to day work. thinking about it more from a leadership perspective and how you might think about your day to day through these leadership traits and how you could implement them. So even though right now you're not necessarily in a leadership position, you could still implement some of these leadership principles either to yourself or within your team members in order to one practice and develop and see how they play out within the professional realm. And leadership is something that like a lot of people strive for, but it's something that's very important to take a sense of responsibility within because you're not necessarily just going in to do work, you're also impacting people's lives and development. So it's something that's important, and all of you are definitely taking this serious coming into a workshop. So continue to develop your leadership skills, continue to better yourself, and as the day comes, it's it's time to lead. So I want to leave you all with these thoughts about leadership, and I want to thank you all for coming to this workshop.